All right, what's going on, people? Aaron Richards here with my wonderful mom, Kim Richards, and I'm here because we're in Medellín, Colombia, and I was able to help my parents and afford to be able to be down here because of making $20,000 a month in passive income. But of course, I didn't actually start there. I was burned by automation. I lost 6 figures ultimately trying to figure out how to earn passive income. A lot of my journey has kind of led me to where I am now and how and why I created Atn. But of course, like a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of clients or prospective clients that I speak to, they actually ask, why don't you have 100,000 followers on social media? Or why aren't you like acting like that you have Lamborghinis or renting out mansions and things like that? Well, ultimately for me, I was raised, I don't want to compare myself too much, but I was raised differently than that, right? And that's not ultimately going to actually help me take care of my family or help in that regard. So one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to come on here and talk to my mom and have a quick conversation was because I want people to understand where I came from and how I got things started, why I have the mindset that I do to have multiple streams of income. But without further to talk about, let's go ahead and introduce Kim Richards.
Thanks, Aaron. I was born and raised in a town right outside of Cleveland, Ohio. Continued my education to become an engineer and then worked for an amazing company, General Electric, for 10 years. I've been married for 40 years to Aaron's dad, and kind of halfway in between those 40 years, my husband developed Parkinson's disease. And when that happened, we had to make some serious decisions. He was working full-time in the pastorate and had to go into a forced retirement. And the board of directors decided to give him a severance packet. We thought it was a pretty generous severance packet, but found out that due to the cost of healthcare in America, that money kind of dwindled really fast. So thank God I had always been raised by my mom in a single parent household where you don't put all your eggs into one basket. So I learned early on to have multiple income streams. We had these multiple income streams, but we were faced with this health challenge. So we spent a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the United States, and then to learn that, if we would consider going outside of the United States and looking at some alternative healthcare systems that are superior to America, that our funds could last longer. That's how we landed up in Medellín, Colombia. We've been here now for 8 years. Through Aaron kind of adapting early on a good understanding of personal finances and a good understanding of passive income, he has now afforded my husband and I the opportunity to be able to retire comfortably because of this opportunity that his company provides.
Well, I appreciate that type of credit, of course, but a big part of the reason why I was focused on finances and understanding that I was actually in a rat race was because you gave me some advice just before I got married. And actually, it's crazy. So right here, like 8 years ago, I came down here by myself. I was with Brooke at the time, like we were dating or whatever at the time. I came down here after I actually got let go of a corporate position. I was laid off, but they gave me a severance package as well, right? I came down here, I was chilling. I was like, oh man, I got several thousands of dollars. I'm like 24, 25 years old. So I just wanted to set goals. I wanted to like really like make sure that I was intentional about the money that I had and then also the next direction. It was down here where I decided to become a counselor. It was down here where I decided to marry Brooke. And then it was down here where I asked my mom about what do you feel like some of the things that I should be learning about or some of the things that I should study. What should I like take like as a next challenge? And she was like, you need to learn more about personal finance. And I was like, well, and actually the specific way you said it was you need to study money. I was like, money? What do you mean? Like, I already know how money works. You get a couple dollars, right? You spend, you save a couple, you spend a couple, right? Like whatever. So I was like, I already know how money works. I've been seeing money for my whole life at that point, 25 years. But I went down a really long self-study of money. And that is what ultimately developed me into being able to ultimately leave the rat race after making 6 figures and then figure out how to be more of an entrepreneur, a self-sufficient contributor to the market. So of course, that really helps with where we're at right now. Now, with that being said, how would you describe my journey from your perspective after like I kind of went into the professional world?
But I got a real sad story to tell. Well, the reason why I told them to focus on finance is because at that time we had set up a trust fund for them. And I had met with them, that's right before we came over here. Met with them and I told them, I gave them all three an idea of what they were going to get, what they were going to inherit. But as of July of this year, of 23, my husband outlived all of his insurance. They had to forfeit it. Their inheritance is really cut in half. He's outlived it. So policies that we were paying $150 a month for, we had to pay $4,000 a month for it. And we had a family meeting and it was like, let them go, Mom. But that was their inheritance. So you need to have another stream. You got to have some other stuff going on in your life.
Kim, based on your experience, because Aaron shared from his side of view, he came here, he was given under a lot of guidance, he's able to stand on your shoulders for advice. But what was it from your perspective as far as him going on his own money journey, but also you having to wear multiple hats during this time? Because that's not really being mentioned. You had 5 streams of income, but you're also a caretaker of your husband who's sick. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that aspect?
I think the journey has been, how can you continue to grow in life, continue to meet life's challenges, and continue to allow your children to be the best that they could possibly be under the shadow of taking care of someone with a chronic disease. So my husband now has had the Parkinson's for 20 years, but my primary goal was for Aaron and his siblings to be able to continue to grow and become their own person. So having that in mind, I've always had multiple income streams, so I can kind of go to this bag or that bag for their continuing education, for their purchasing of their own homes. So always making sure that there was income available in the house.
So I think you kind of decided to have like a bucket of like one stream of income was for this, or
yes, I diversified. So one stream was for the children's education. One stream was for purchasing of real estate. Another stream was for vacations. Another stream was for purchasing automobiles. But just made sure that there was always a nice flow. But like I stated, when that healthcare crisis came up, then these buckets kind of were shut down a little bit because I had to now divide my time to taking care of my husband. So you have time and energy, and then also trying to take care of myself, making sure that I say this, I don't know if I can say it on camera, but that I didn't gain 500 pounds and that I still had a good quality of life for myself as well. So it's balancing. And how this impacted Aaron, I always wanted him to be able to be his own authentic self and make sure that he was able to grow and to advance emotionally, financially, spiritually, in all areas of his life.
When it comes to Aaron, what was some moments in his journey that, oh, he's really taking life seriously, he's actually really following my actual guidance and advice, and he's not just brushing it off and being a delinquent son, to say the least?
And actually, I believe when Aaron went to Grand Canyon University, I think that really changed his life. So for example, he took a job where he was working at night. And then he was doing online classes before online classes was really popular. And that's how he got his bachelor's degree. And then I did a challenge for him to continue on to get his master's. I think this is important for ATN. I think people need to know you're educated. Mm-hmm. Okay, they don't believe that, even though I'm an educator. They're like, that doesn't matter, Mom. But yes, it does. So he continued his education, and in continuing his education, he began to look for other ways, other income streams for himself.
I was like, why did you follow her advice with the higher education? Like, what made you do that?
So why I followed her advice with the higher education is because I saw that she was making 6 figures. And then I saw that my sister, my older sister, she's 4 years older than me. My brother, he's like a year and a half older than me. So I've seen them as far as like when they graduated college, like they were able to eventually like find good jobs that were making, I don't know, like just under 6 figures or whatever. Because of course you're not going to necessarily start your professional career making that amount, so to speak. So I saw that, I was just like, all right, well, I want to be able to have a good baseline of income. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I was like, all right, let me buckle down and eventually get my bachelor's degree. I was really like challenging myself with education because I had a tuition benefit that said if you had an A, you would get 100% tuition paid for. If you had a B, you get 90% tuition. If you had a C, you get 80% tuition paid for. And I'm like, so then you're saying that I could get 100% of my stuff paid for as long as I get A's? So that's why I graduated summa cum laude, because I was absolutely motivated to actually get those grades. So not only for the education portion as far as like what it could do for my like professional career, but also I took it as a challenge. I'm a pretty competitive person. So that was like one of the biggest things there.
And that So he kind of got his momentum going academically. And then when he took his job at the university, they said, well, if you hit this certain target performance-wise, you could work from home. This is way from before remote work was even possible in America. So they would give him incentives. He was just killing it. He's just killing it. Oh, I can work from home one day if I hit this goal right here. Oh, I can work from home 2 days if I hit this goal right here. So I think those things are very important in life. Same way, if you're a person that's trying to increase your financial base and invest with ATN, this is the type of mindset that you have to have. There has to be a goal, and then you just begin to climb and climb and climb and climb and climb, and that's what Aaron has done.
Did your whole self-study phases on finances because of Kip, right?
Yeah.
And then tell us what you did differently with the Dave Ramsey self-education.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like we're talking about being competitive, okay, like, all right, so I'm challenged to learn more about finances. I'm challenged to learn more, like to develop more in that regard. So I was like, all right, what can I do? How can I take this, and really excel with it? I just went to YouTube University, right? That's where everybody has to go to get started. I started listening to Dave Ramsey, right? So some people call him Save Ramsey, but, for him, and she was like big into Susie Orman and stuff like that, but they're both kind of almost cut from the same cloth in that regard. That's kind of where I got my start as far as understanding about finances, personal finances. And then I graduated to Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad, Poor Dad and everything like that. It started off with just understanding that you needed to be able to control your debt or control your expenses. And then you really at the same time, my mindset was being an offensive player, right? I'm going to focus on increasing my income as well. So some people just focus on decreasing their expenses when I was focusing on increasing my expenses at the same time, right? So creating that gap to where ultimately I was able to have enough money to pay for paying down my debts. And that's when the story of me and Brooke in Venice in a 600 square foot apartment, just grinding away during COVID and paying off all of our consumer debt because of our belief and following of Dave Ramsey. And then ultimately we were at a point where now we have more income coming in than massively more income coming in than we actually needed to put out. That allowed for us to save a good amount and then be able to have the opportunity to purchase our first home, which in Southern California, we were living in LA, and it's a $1 million market, right? Buying your first home, it's $1 million, right, in Los Angeles. So we decided to take advantage of the fact that we were remote. We were able to move somewhere that was a little bit more affordable, but my mom was able to step in and challenge us as well, right? When you issue me a challenge, then I'm going to take it and decide to overcome it, or take advantage of it. She issued a challenge and said, we'll match whatever you're going to contribute to your home as a down payment, which motivated me even more to have that capital to do it, which ultimately that led to me having my first real taste of capital, a solid amount of capital, because now I had equity. This was when the housing prices were just before the boom that happened in kind of 2020, 2021. So she helped me get into a house. That helped me get equity. And then now all of a sudden I had the ability to take a HELOC and use capital in order to start to generate more. So that was kind of the lessons that I learned from some of the books that I was reading and some of the information that I was getting from these financial experts. So that was really helpful.
What was your side of it? Seeing him go from your young son to now becoming a young man.
I think when I saw Aaron, like I said, when he took off academically, and then when I came down to visit him and Brooke and saw how he managed his job, I said, this dude is a beast. Oh my God, he's got skills. I guess I was like the old lady eavesdropping or something like that, but it was he's got skills here. And with all three of them, I've always been go, 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 go. Become your best self. Do what you want to do it with integrity, do it with authenticity, be yourself, and then the sky is the limit. You can do whatever you want to do. And then, so when I was watching him perform his job, then I would say, well, Aaron, you probably could do this, or you probably could try that. And then he'd kind of chill, he's got a real chill kind of personality, and then he would just think about it. And even from a little boy, now the mama stories, but a little boy, all he had to do was look at something. And he was like a toddler and his siblings were older, but he just looked at it one time and jumped up, and then he was walking, he was riding a bike, he was doing this or that. He just looked at it just one time, did it real good, and then he was out.
And one thing I've noticed is that you've been supportive throughout his whole journey. It doesn't seem like you're one of the mothers that you can't do this and that you don't instill.
No, not at all. We have 3 children, and they're all different. And I've always wanted him to be the leader. He was mischievous as a young boy, but what I would tell the teachers is, he's a leader. I need you to challenge him. I need you to motivate him. I need you to provide him something else. He's bored. Give him something else to do. And then there's a joke around our house. So when they were young, kind of between 7 to 10, they learned early on they couldn't say that they were bored. Because if they said that they were bored, they had some clothes to fold up, they got some dishes to wash, they had some grass outside to cut. Early on, they learned how to entertain themselves, how to motivate themselves. So he's carried that on.
Oh, you're bored? I'll give you something to do.
You need something to do. That's what you need to do.
So is that what led to transitioning to also the ATN success?
I was challenged by one of my peers, right? I went into digital consulting. I met an individual who was like, he wanted me to come work for them at a company that he was a sales leader at, and saw something in me to be able to like come on and like eventually become a sales leader for that team. And I got on the team and I was just like, I'm not really interested in like just working commission. I want to have an ability to like, okay, great. I make commission, I make sales or whatever it is, but then I also want to have these streams of income coming in that are passive, preferably, that I'm using my capital to be able to grow. What I noticed was after I kind of like said that I didn't really want to take that role, he was like, oh man, but we got to figure out something. How are we going to work together? How are we going to do this? And I was just like, well, I do have something that is working for me right now, and maybe I could kind of talk to my friends and talk to my family about it, get a proof of concept and make sure that it actually works for multiple people. But if it works, then hey, we can actually promote this and actually start to provide this opportunity to other people, right? That was one of the things at that point. I was kind of challenged by him to figure out how we could actually work together. And then eventually it grew into like, okay, great. Like it works for friends, it works for family. And then now we have something, an opportunity to be able to spread it to a lot more people.
So I want to pick up on this. Was it part of your pastoral upbringing and counseling role? I had all the children tested when they were young. He tested in the area of being a counselor.
Oh,
Being that type of a servant leader like that. He's flowing in his natural gifting. I remember when he called me to tell me about this peer wanting him to come over to this other side. And then he kind of let me know, Mom, I think I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to go out on my own. And then kind of like within 6 months or a year of that conversation, he told me, he says, my intentions are to help you with Dad's healthcare expenses. He says, it's going to take me a year to 2 years to be able to do it, but I want to be able to help with that direct expense. And then he said, in another conversation, so you want to retire. How long is it going to take? And I said, maybe about 2 years or something like that. He says, now, what's the gap? What's going to be the gap between what you're making now and when you retire? So I gave him that gap number. He says, no problem. Mom, retire when you want to retire. I said, what? So, I kept that in the back of my mind, kept chugging away, giving him time to build the business and to grow and to make adjustments. Yeah. And then his family was growing as well, things like that. And so, but now the day is here. I'm going to be retiring this year, and by the end of the year, he's positioned, he's set, and I'm grateful.
So I also want to show you, ask from your perspective, right? Because I know you talked a little bit about the social media thing, but I don't think people realize how important it is to know what's the main thing.
Yeah.
Right? You focus on the main thing, which is taking care of your sons and also wearing multiple hats, right? You kept the main thing, right? And then also for you, that's exactly how you're translating into business. But I want to hear from your perspective, right?
Yeah. So I mean, originally, as a kid, millennial, right? I'm going to be on social media or whatever, and it's going to be high school, early college days. But eventually, because I was still chasing a football dream and trying to figure stuff out, I didn't really focus as much on school as I should have. I was kind of just doing part-time school and not really being serious. And so what that ended up being was me, I was kind of left behind a little bit. I was 21, 22, and I'm seeing all of my friends graduate from college. How am I seeing that? I'm seeing it on social media. So I'm just man, and the studies have shown years after I really was off of social media, it's hey, that really affects your dopamine levels. It could be it could lead to depression if you don't get a certain amount of likes or this or whatever. So I was really before I got to the point where I was really feeling depressed or whatever, I just got off social media at 22. So from 22 to 30, right? I really got back on social media in order to really, it just started with LinkedIn. And then of course, starting this business, you kind of have to have some sort of social media presence. So for a whole pretty much decade, I was off social media. I didn't really care. I didn't really place too much value on it, because when I started making six figures at like 27 or whatever it was, I was like, should I get back on? Should I get an IG now? So should I flex now? Should I, get a nice watch and, show that? Or should I like get a nice souped up Maxima and show that, right? Like what should I do that? But it was just like, no, like if I didn't care about it, then why would I care about it now? Right? That's a big part of why I don't really care to be in front of the camera and just like, look at this up there, look at that up there, ooh, look at this, right? That's not really how I want to do things. Or I don't want to like go buy a Lamborghini, not to like flex or anything, but I could buy a Lamborghini in cash right now. But that's something that I'm not going to do, because I understand the importance of building assets. A Lamborghini is not an asset, right? That's an extreme liability. I know people that have like Lamborghinis and these supercars, and they're like, oh, it's always in the shop, and oh, it's always this or that. It's like, you know what I mean? Like those are first world problems, but not even like a really useful liability, even though it is, right? So for me, I've always focused much more on the substance of something rather than the artificial, superficial kind of flash of it all. So that's a big reason why I'm not really big on social media like that. So really, ultimately, the majority of my time that I spend on a daily basis is with my clients and with my executive team, figuring out the best way to perform, figuring out the best way to produce results for them. Because ultimately for our business, that's the number one most important thing: clients, results, and satisfaction. So shout out to Julio for being the satisfaction king. Julio is our onboard specialist. He's the person that is the success manager. Ultimately, everybody's favorite person to be able to meet after me. Of course, they meet him, and then they're able to just like, oh man, like you're such a patient person. You're able to help me so easily, and you're able to walk me through these things, and you're so available. So it's a team effort. And ultimately, again, just what I spend all of my time focused on when it comes to like specifically ATN related things is ultimately just client success.
So how do you think Aaron's success and what he's found with ATN is helping you prepare for your official retirement?
I think what Aaron is doing by collectively bringing a group of talented people together and providing client fulfillment at the highest level is what's critical here, because there's lots of conversations that are going on social media and on YouTube, just on all these different platforms, but who's really executing? Who's really producing? So
a lot of people aren't producing.
that's what I said.
People aren't executing.
Who?
I mean, so some of us like being in this space a little bit more. Most people don't realize about the industry, right? Like these people that have 1 million followers, like it doesn't determine how much money you have in the bank or how many assets you have in your portfolio. Like we know plenty of people that have 1 million followers that can barely make ends meet, and they're living well above their means. So for me, I've wanted to not live well below my means, but definitely still prioritize the things that are actually important, which are actual assets and cash flowing assets, to be specific. Focusing on cash flowing assets leads to being able to have more income than you need for your immediate circumstances. My immediate circumstances are my wife and my 2 kids, right? But in order to be able to make the impact that I want to be able to spread some of the resources that I have to the ones that I love the most, being able to help my mom in this way, and then of course helping my dad as well and take some pressure off of them, has been like, it's an intrinsic thing. It's amazing. I'm really thankful to be able to do it. But I do feel like that's a part of like me being a man and me being the man. You heard her say that I was the leader early on. Even though I'm the youngest, I definitely have always felt as though like it's on me. Right. So now that's what it is.
And Kim, this is a fun question for you.
Okay, good.
But what are you most proud of when it comes to Aaron?
Just get it done. Like I said, from a little boy who saw it and would just do it. Just get it done. The execution.
Yeah. So when it comes to parenting, because it seems like you did a great job, also to not allowing, from my take on it, it doesn't seem like you allowed your emotional stress with your husband getting sick also affect the family, because it's regardless of like a very emotionally turbulent time.
I intentionally did not want them to experience any of that. I wanted them to be able to, their dad became ill when they were in high school. So I wanted them to be able to complete high school. I wanted them to be able to complete college. Even though Aaron's brother asked me, he was a sophomore at Arizona State, said, do you want me to come back home? Do you want me to help to stay home with you? I said, nope, I want you to go back to school and graduate from college. So I'm just, I guess a proud moment is, I'm just glad that he's completed his education and has a beautiful family and now wants to reach back and say, hey, thanks, Mom. Hey, thanks, Dad. That makes me very, very, very proud that he's a generous person and that he wants to help others. He doesn't want to just be the head guy and then not help anybody the way he's taking care of you guys here on this trip, the way he takes care of his siblings. He has a first cousin that he's helping out. That makes me proud. Willing to help others. That's what the Richards is all about. Now, when we get ours, we're going to help you get yours, and we're going to help you keep yours. And that's why I wanted him to study money so that he would understand it's not just about making money, but keeping money. And then it's about also blessing other people with your resources. So,
a really well-known orator once said, "What good is first class if my homies can't sit?" So it's a big part of what I'm about.
I think, where's my little notebook on there? That purple notebook over there talking about raising successful millennials. That's what I'm really. You want to raise the kids where that they are successful in their own right, in their own areas, but then they also have a passion to give back and to support others. Of course, you reach back into your immediate family, you reach back for your parents, but then others. We're our best self when we're serving. When we're serving other people, that's when you're going to experience fulfillment. To know that my son has achieved some level of success and he's willing to help me to retire any moment that I want to retire, is going to supplement, to know that his dad is outlived his insurance policies, outlived his severance packet, that he's worked 50 years of his life, but now he's outliving all of it because of an illness that he can no longer work, and he has a mind to want to help the family. This is what success is all about. It's just not about heaping money upon yourself, but we are our best when we're helping others.
So what advice do you have to those parents with the same aspirations?
So at age 40, I invested in personal finances. I was familiar with Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. Those were the gurus during my time. What I'd like to say to every young parent in raising successful children is teaching them the core values of, I might get churchy here with you guys, but loving your neighbor as yourself. But love yourself, help yourself, but help others. And then continuing to set goals and challenge yourself. Okay, you've accomplished this. Okay, now step it up. Step it up. Step it up. And then while you're stepping up and when you're growing, lift up other people. Teach the children how to give back. Teach the children how to go into neighborhoods that don't look like their neighborhoods and help people. Teach the children with money management, with allowances and with chores, with other opportunities. But the main thing is the giving back portion. Helping someone that's not going to ever be able to help you. Helping those and doing it on a regular basis.
How did you not let the fear or I guess pressure consume you at all?
I never thought about it like that. It never dawned on me at all. That's why now we're having a family meeting and everything. We didn't know we were going to be here for 8 years. But we knew that economically it was going to allow our money to stretch and to go further. We knew that their healthcare system was good. We're people of faith, just taking steps of faith, leaps of faith, and believing and trusting in God that it's all going to work out. It's all going to be good. So fear, some people call it false evidence of things appearing to be real, but I'm not concerned with fear at all. Not at all. And it's about the goal setting. It's about, hey, what do we want to do? And then Aaron, like I said, he's like, let's go, Mom, let's go. And that's just kind of how I raised them, and they grew up and they were exposed to some really good environments. So,
So for me with fear, I take it as a challenge because it's more of like, all right, when you're faced with adversity, like how do you respond, right? You could either run the other way, you could try to go around it, or you could go through it. And I choose mostly to go through it, right? If it's not an opportunity to go around it while allowing for me to really get past it and not just all right, now it's just sitting on my side, right? I still have to live with it and everything like that. So I would rather go through it if that's what it's meant to be. I'm never going to run from it. So that how that was instilled was because I saw her face adversity all through her life, and my dad faced adversity, especially when he was diagnosed 20 plus years ago. So that was one of the things that I saw from them. And for me, I knew that I wasn't going to just succumb to something that I feel like was just a challenge, an opportunity for me to get better, right? You get better through a struggle, you get better through adversity. So that's what I felt.
Because the reason why I mentioned fear is because you could have been fearful when you guys went into an automation package together and it didn't work out.
100%. She was one of the reasons why I was trying to get passive income as well. Because again, I was wanting to be able to help them, right? And help myself as well. But I wanted her to have the opportunity to see real passive income. She had multiple income streams, but they were all active sources of income. And so when I went to her and was like, hey, I think there's an opportunity here that we can really make some passive income. I think that this could work. She was supportive, and she was like, I think that let's go ahead and try it. Let's see if this works out. And of course, that one did not work out, but she never blamed me. She never was like angry with me or like, oh my gosh, we lost. Like, she has an investor's mentality as well. And just in the way of like, hey, we tried something that didn't work, but just basically just keep going, keep trying to figure things out. She's always been like, all right, like what, like that happened, what's next? How do you respond? What's the next move, right? It's not getting knocked down and staying down and she's gonna coddle me and give me a blanket and like read me a story on the ground, right? She's like, all right, so that happened, all right, like hand, let's go ahead and get up, let's start to walk again. And that's always been a part of how I've grown up, and now that's what I'm instilling with my kids. So in talking about like passive income and like how we failed in the automation space at first, we still needed to actually find passive income. So on the next video, we'll go ahead and dive a little bit deeper on exactly how we were able to get past the failed automation experiences and end up on the other side of it, to where now we're able to pay a pretty high amount as far as expenses, but also live very comfortably in the cities that we want to live in. So you can check that out over here.